Spider-Man's host of superpowers are fairly easy to explain, as demonstrated by his own theme song.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can.
Basically, Spider-Man does what a spider can. One of the more mundane powers in Spider-Man's repertoire is his ability to stick to walls, something that is actually incredibly powerful and has limits that even Spider-Man doesn't understand. The many comics Spider-Man has appeared in over the years have made it abundantly clear that removing the wall crawler from a surface he doesn't want to be taken away from is almost impossible, and even if you do manage to dunk him into the asphalt, bits of the surface he was just clinging to will often be found at the edge of his fingertips, meaning that it's the surface that breaks away and not Spider-Man. How he sticks to walls, it's like artistic interpretation of what it is. Some people say, oh, he puts like a electromagnetic pulse, some people say micro fine hairs. Is the microscopic hairs that stick to his finger, why are they on all the time? But then again, you can say that, oh, he's just got millions of tiny microscopic hairs. It's okay, so how do those microscopic hairs reach through like a latex suit? How long are those hairs? Even if they're supposed to be microscopic, his suit's not like a nanometer thick. According to the Marvel Wiki, exactly how much weight Spider-Man can support using his wall clinging ability isn't known. However, it is established that this wall crawler can comfortably support up to several tons using a single fingertip, meaning Spider-Man could flip you the bird while a taxi is hanging from his middle finger upside down. That's the easiest way to think something else like, oh wow, several tons from his fingertips. So he could basically do that upside down, and then there's a car here. That's the problem with Spider-Man, that they make him always fight humans. It's really difficult to show how strong he is. Like, he can jump like 30, 40 feet in the air. He can throw a bus. He knocks out a T-Rex in one comic. There's a comic where, this is because comics are fucking stupid, there is a comic where Spider-Man's mind gets swapped with Dr. Octopus. In his first fight with Scorpion, he punches Scorpion in the face, but he doesn't hold back, and he rips off Scorpion's jaw, and then Dr. Octopus realizes in his head, holy shit, in his entire crime-fighting career, Spider-Man has been holding back. He could kill any person he ever got into a fight with, and didn't because he's a nice guy. Spider-Man's abilities are, they're not poorly defined, it's just they're never really tested because he only fights street-level criminals. And I would love it if there's just one where Spider-Man just loses it. He's got superhuman reflexes. He's got the best reflexes. You can't fight him. There are times where Spider-Man, I think he's knocked out or he's asleep and his spider sense still works and helps him avoid danger. He's so reliant on his spider sense and it's so good. There's a comic where he loses his spider sense and he just walks out into traffic and gets hit by a car. His one weakness is like ethyl chloride or something like that, and if he just wore a mask, he's completely immune to it. It's a poison used to kill spiders.
Of course it is.
Oh no, he'll never be the Wall. Have you seen that?
No.
Do you remember the old Spider-Man serials? There's a villain called the Wall, and it's just a man who a brick wall falls on him, and he becomes a sentient brick wall. Everyone's like, oh, Donald Trump's nightmare, because it's just the Wall. But there's an awesome image of Spider-Man going to a Mets game wearing a hat. He's going, let's go Mets, with his little flag. And then there's a giant sentient brick wall peeking around the corner saying, I'm going to get you, Spider-Man. Mate, I love comics, but you know what I love more than comics? Dumb shit in comics. So I research this a lot, and I always go on to like the Marvel Wiki, which I highly recommend people go on, just to do my favourite thing of scrolling to the bottom and looking what their powers are. Because so many superheroes that we know about have additional powers or things they can do with their powers that are never shown in conventional media that most people consume, like TV and movies. Like this is how I found out Spider-Man can't be removed from a brick wall. He doesn't just limit it to his fingers. His ability to stick to walls is every part of his body. Like there's comics where he sticks people to his back. Joe, when he's rescuing people,
right.
Oh no, I need to use my hands for fighting, just sticks people to his back. So stupid. That's why he can't take his mask off. He just sticks it to his face.
Well, someone tries to pull his mask off.
Yeah, he sticks to his face. What makes Spider-Man's wall crawling ability really scary though is that he seemingly has the ability to turn it on and off at will. Why is this scary? Well, there's an arc in one comic where a bunch of dickhole Spider-Man clones use this power to reach out and rip people's faces off. I believe it's called the Mark of Cain, and it's some dickhole Spider-Man clone who has all the same abilities and powers of Spider-Man, decides, you know what? I'm not gonna let criminals get away with being criminals. I must mark them. So he just puts his hand on their face and rips it off.
You want to take his...
Yes. His face.
And then leaves like a big Spider-Man handprint on their face. So which means that every time Spider-Man's ever touched another human being, he could, if he wanted to, have just gone, oh, I love you, Mary Jane. It's sad you're breaking up with me. No face. Remember, we've established that Spider-Man can use his wall crawling ability with any part of his body, which means that any time he's ever made skin-to-skin contact with another human being, he could have, if he wanted to, ripped the skin from that part of the body away. That's a level of trust in a relationship I don't think I'll ever have. Then again, there is that Spider-Man comic in the future where he does kill Mary Jane with his radioactive spider semen. That happens.
What?
That happens. Look it up. Spider-Man Reign. It's about an old man Spider-Man where he cries on the tombstone of Mary Jane because he killed her with his radioactive bodily fluids, which means that he fucked his girlfriend to death. This is important because this is a hero whose most famous live action scene is kissing a woman upside down. It's like he could have ripped Mary Jane's face off during that scene. It's like when kids get their tongue stuck to a lamppost, he just gets stuck to Spider-Man. Like Mary Jane kisses his neck and he stands up to get a drink or something. No, turn it off. The range of surfaces Spider-Man can stick to tends to vary from writer to writer, although the hero himself maintains that he can stick to anything. In one comic, this ability draws the curiosity of Tony Stark, who happens to notice that Spider-Man stuck to a sheer glass window and doesn't appear to move when nudged, prompting Spider-Man to tell Tony Stark, quite simply, I can stick to anything. This starts a pissing contest between the two heroes, where they're just both sat there going, I wonder how this power works. Like, you stuck to a glass, and you're not moving. And Spider-Man says, yes, I stick to anything. So Tony Stark goes, okay, how about you stick to the Hulk? I saw this image out of context and I refuse to look up why the Hulk's just calmly eating a pizza. My theory is that he overpaid. Or he tipped the guy a 20 and didn't realise, he thought it was a 5 and it was a 20. And oh, fuck's sake, and he got really pissed off but still wanted the pizza. So the Hulk sat there on a sofa and Tony sat there, okay, so Spider-Man, would you stick to the Hulk? And the Hulk has got no idea that there are two people like 3 feet away planning on letting a human-sized spider moonwalk along his biceps. And then Spider-Man says, of course I do, and then just sticks to the Hulk. And then someone points out, hey Hulk, you got a spider thing stuck on your arm. He goes, yeah, Spider-Man is Hulk's friend. And that is why I love comics. And I'm also happy that Spider-Man is now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because there's a chance that scene might make it into a movie one day. According to the Marvel Wiki, Spider-Man possesses sufficient strength to easily bench a tank and could knock out a human-sized target with nothing more than a light slap of his wrist. Some of Spider-Man's more extreme examples of buffness include knocking out a T-Rex in a single punch, throwing a truck weighing several tons, and lifting up an entire fucking building. Spider-Man, against every human opponent he ever fights, pulls his punches. To the point where he says, when criminals punch me, I have to act like they hurt and roll with the punch, because if I don't, I'll break their wrists. And that'd be embarrassing. And there's one of the comics where he brags that a heavyweight boxer once punched him in the stomach, and he didn't flinch and just stood there and took it, and the boxer broke his hand.
So not only does he have to not punch people properly, he also has to pretend like he's being punched.
Yes, which is why a lot of people don't really know how tough Spider-Man actually is until they see him fight without holding back. Because obviously a lot of people see him like in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where he just like casually picks up a car.
I'm glad you're not one of those cops that rides a horse.
Or something like that, or where he casually catches Bucky's arm in Civil War.
You have a metal arm? That is awesome, dude.
People don't expect him to be as strong as he actually is, because obviously all he does is like stop muggers, and they don't realise, like, holy shit, this guy is ridiculous. Because obviously the proportional strength of the spider thing means he's like able to lift like 1,000 times his own body weight or some shit like that. As we've discussed on this very channel before, Spider-Man is all kinds of badass, what with his ability to punch people's faces off and stick to the Hulk's biceps. But did you know that Spider-Man's powers also make him pretty good at poker, so long as he faces the right kind of opponent?
So which of his powers is it that gives him poker power?
It is his spider sense, which most people will be familiar with, is the ability that allows Spider-Man to, like, you know, dodge point-blank range gunfire and punches aimed towards his penis. But it also has a number of, like, other, less well-known effects that allow Spider-Man to function in his role as Spider-Man in, like, you know, just a more efficient manner.
So in addition to warning him about, like, actual threats coming for him at that moment,
yes,
what else does his spider sense do?
Well, the spider sense, it's nebulously defined, but, like, throughout the years, like, the comics have, like, made reference to other things Spider-Man's spider sense, like, warns him about. And that includes, in addition to direct threats, potential threats. So, say, for example, a person with a concealed weapon or who plans to walk up and punch him in the face. His spider sense will also give him, like, some sort of a warning about that, which, combined with Spider-Man's superior spider-like reflexes, allow him to, like, basically dodge any potential threat up to and including point-blank range gunfire to the face. Because that's one of my favourite things in the Spider-Man games, when, like, you can start fighting enemies with guns, and you just get the little thing above your head and you just dodge the bullets, and the enemy's like, I didn't expect this.
It's also the most casual dodge ever, where he just sort of tilts to the
That's
side.
all he has to do, isn't it? He doesn't have to do, like, a dramatic backflip over it, because his spider sense tells him, okay, the bullets are going to go in this arc, move your body this way. And I think there are, like, comics where it says, oh yeah, even when Spider-Man's blind or fighting at night, he'll always be able to, like, kick someone's ass, because his spider sense basically just gives him an edge that is almost unbeatable. But here's where we have to delve deep into the comics to get to the dumb shit, because it's not just direct physical threats that Spider-Man's spider sense allows him to dodge and avoid. Some of them are more like existential threats, like, you know, his identity being discovered, because it's alluded to in one comic that the reason Spider-Man is never photographed without his mask on is because his spider sense warns him if someone's nearby with a camera. Also, another, like, I think as well, it's said that he can use his sticky powers to keep his mask on his face.
Oh, I've heard
so
that
if people
one,
try
yeah.
and pull his mask off, it just sticks to his face and they can't pull it off, which means that Spider-Man, unless he wants to be, will never be fucking unmasked in anything. So I think that you need to go one step further, like that Batman thing, where he has, like, the taser underneath the mask that just tases people for no reason. But in addition to that, have you ever wondered why Spider-Man can, like, you know, swing through New York City without ever, like, falling on his ass?
Is that spider sense as well?
Yes, his spider sense also, like, guides where he throws his webs and tells him, like, where is an anchor point that you won't rip off and fall like a jackass, because that'd just be embarrassing. So that's the reason why he can basically swing through the city at 100 miles an hour without even looking where he's going, which allows him to both travel through the city safely while also not doing any damage to it. Because I'm guessing J. Jonah Jameson had a fucking field day if there were loads of people saying their windows got smashed by Spider-Man. Because imagine how dangerous that'd be. In, like, New York City, Spider-Man's like 300 foot in the air and he's ripping pieces of buildings off that would fall down onto a street below. That's fucking dangerous, and his spider sense warns him about that as well.
Yeah, and Stan Lee's not always there to pull people out of the way.
Exactly, no, he can't do that. He can't be there all the time to do that shit. So another aspect of his power is that he never does that shit either.
So to get a bit closer to the title of the video,
Yes.
how does his spider sense actually help in the game of poker?
Because Spider-Man's spider sense is so nebulous and abstract in its definition in the comics that it is noted as protecting even threats to his wallet. Like, what a bro fucking power this is. As if it wasn't OP enough protecting him from, like, you know, direct and potential physical threats and threats to his privacy, it also protects his bank balance. Spider sense, man. It's the broest of all powers.
I'd love it if it helped with picking up chicks.
Well, it must do.
We can go up to a bar and he's going to introduce himself with, like, a particular line. It's like, no, don't use that line.
Yeah.
Use this line.
Well, think, what did he do in Spider-Man 3? Look how much he impresses Gwen Stacy, those dance moves, man. Do you think the spider sense helps him pick the dance moves? Like, what dance moves will make you look less like a jackass? Because everyone in the bar loves it. Obviously, we as an audience think that scene's funny and stupid and hilarious, but I don't think there's anyone in that bar who's not impressed by Spider-Man in that moment, and I think his spider sense guided him. I think it must guide him in all aspects of, like, you know, his day-to-day life. It must guide his hips when he's having sex. I'm just now thinking, though, Spider-Man's spider sense is, like, you know, that abstract in its applications. Does it help him in the bedroom? Because obviously, if he's, like, you know, getting down and dirty with Mary Jane, he's going to do something that she doesn't like that would cause her to, like, you know, lash out and get annoyed at him. Would his spider sense tell him, like, where to go? Does it guide him directly towards the G-spot?
So is spider sense protecting his wallet?
Yes.
Is this something that you've basically taken 2 steps forward for after learning, or does he actually play poker?
No, Spider-Man does play poker, yes, and this particular aspect of his spider sense does come in very handy, and Spider-Man himself explains it. when there's a comic where he's playing like poker with the Thing, because in the Marvel universe it's stuff like the Thing has like monthly, weekly poker games that various superheroes attend, and the Kingpin turns up to one game and like obviously beats everybody except for Spider-Man, who using his spider sense can tell when Kingpin's bluffing, and Kingpin gets super fucking salt about it, and everyone's like, oh wow, Spider-Man's really fucking good at this game.
The spider sense is sounding a bit broken right now.
Oh yeah, it's OP as shit.
What limitations does it have?
There are a couple noted in the comics. One is that if it's a particular like extreme threat, it can cause Spider-Man like some discomfort, because obviously it makes it, the stronger the threat is, like the stronger the reaction, and something that's basically like immediate life imperiling will like cause him immense pain until he moves out of the way. And another weakness of it is that it only works against things or people Spider-Man actively considers to be a threat. So for example, Aunt May does not set off his spider sense, which is why I'm going to assume in some comics and in like Spider-Man Homecoming, Aunt May walks in on Spider-Man changing. Because as we've established, the spider sense allows Spider-Man to know when someone might discover his secret identity, but he doesn't see Aunt May as a threat. She wants to discover it. Same thing with Ned, which is why I'm going to say. I don't think like the filmmakers have ever like really talked about that, but that's how I read that scene. It's like, well, why wouldn't Spider-Man with his like all-encompassing like radar spider sense not know someone's right there? Well, it's his best mate. Why would he think his best mate should pose a threat to him? But one of the other ones is that Venom specifically doesn't set it off, because Venom was like mentally linked with Spider-Man when he was wearing the symbiote suit, so Venom doesn't set off his spider sense, which is why Venom's one of his most dangerous adversaries, because his most useful power doesn't work against Venom, which means like Venom can get the drop on him, which is why in all of like the TV shows that they fight, Venom always sneaks up behind him, because he's the only person who can.
He never triggered my spider sense.
So does that mean if a hero went rogue, or had reason to, they would probably be able to get at least a few punches in on Spider-Man?
Yes, and it's noted that like Spider-Man's spider sense, it doesn't work against like people he considers allies. So if say Wolverine wanted to punch Spider-Man on the dick, his spider sense wouldn't warn him about that. He might be able to dodge it because his reflexes, but his spider sense wouldn't help. And to move this back to poker, like while he can detect when the Kingpin is bluffing, he can't detect when his friends are bluffing, which is hilarious because in one comic, Spider-Man loses his spider sense and gets invited to a poker game with the Avengers, and he asks them, why don't I ever get invited to these things? And they went, oh, it's because your spider sense would let you cheat. And we're all very aware of that fact. And then Wolverine chimes in with, also you talk too much, because you know that's classic Wolverine, which means that he probably just spent many an evening sat on his own, wondering why none of his friends wanted to hang out with him, because he didn't tell them how his powers worked, because they all assumed that his spider sense would let him cheat at poker, even though it wouldn't, because of he considers them all to be his friends. It's so Spider-Man it hurts. The idea that like his own friends wouldn't invite him to like their weekly poker nights because they were afraid of him using his powers to win, even though he wouldn't. So he just sat at home on his own. Guess I'll just like tinker with my spider tracers, I guess. And just sit there doing nothing. Oh, poor Spider-Man. So Brad, let's zero in specifically on Spider-Man's spider sense and just discuss the other shit you can probably do using it, because like if it can like protect him from something as like, abstract and innocent as a person with a camera, like you can tell him that there's a guy on the 3rd floor of a building 3 miles away with like a long zoom lens that might get a picture of your face. Don't take your mask off here. What else could his spider sense help him do? Because I'm now thinking, could Spider-Man play the stock market? Because obviously, if he can win at poker, so it's a threat to his wallet. Would it tell him which stocks to pick so he wouldn't lose all his money?
Well, this is why it's so nebulously defined, because you'd assume if he can't perceive a threat from someone who's a friend, it's not a premonition.
No.
It doesn't give him the future. It just weighs up everything around him and gives him the best estimate of what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think the spider sense is one of the least defined like powers in all of Marvel fiction, because it's basically whatever the writer wants it to warn Spider-Man about, it'll warn him about. So I'm now thinking, like, if he can detect bluffing, can he detect when someone's lying? Which means, like, obviously, he now becomes an amazing fucking like interrogator or like lawyer or some shit. Because like, think about if like She-Hulk needs a paralegal, who she bring in? Matt Murdock, Spider-Man as well. So imagine that. Imagine bringing like She-Hulk bringing Spider-Man in as an expert witness. It's like, okay, Mr. Spider-Man, is this guy lying? Yes. How can you tell? Spider sense. Well, fuck me. Well, let's move away from that and just say in his day-to-day superheroing. Let's say Spider-Man encounters someone who's been shot. Would Spider-Man be able to perform impromptu surgery on that person? Because obviously, would his spider sense guide him to not let that person die, even though he doesn't know what he's doing? So let's say he's trying to remove the bullet. Would his spider sense warn him about infection, or whether or not he's going to like nick an artery or something like that? They're all big things. So let's narrow it down to like the petty inconveniences of life. Because there are things in life that aren't necessarily like, you know, all that bothersome in the grand scheme of things. But I'm going to guess the spider sense will still warn Spider. Do you think he ever gets paper cuts? So obviously it's not it's not going to kill him, is it? But at the same time, it's painful.
Yeah.
And something painful is something you want to avoid, and thereby the spider should warn him about it. Does like Spider-Man ever get hangnails? Does he ever like stub his toe? I bet he don't.
Do you reckon if he ever tries to drink, he'll spend the entire night with his spider sense to tell him to stop?
Well, I think it said in one thing he gets drunk, he can still swing home. Yeah. Like his spider sense, basically, there's one, maybe not he's drunk, but he gets knocked out or something.
Yeah.
He can fight when he's knocked out. Because his spider sense like overrides his central nervous system, allows him to fight while unconscious. Oh, I think it warns him as well. Like, do you know when he like broke up with Mary Jane or some shit? When he's walking down the road, I think it warns him if she's about to walk out of shop. Like, oh no, awkward encounter with the ex-girlfriend, spider sense to the rescue.
What if you had a label sticking out?
It must do, because that's embarrassing. Also, it's irritating. What about when he's getting a haircut? See, during they nick the back of your neck and they're getting a haircut. I think it warns him about it and he can just move out of the way.
Or I mean, in the same vein, it warns him if they're going to cut like a bit wrong.
Yeah.
So we've all had bad haircuts.
I think it'd warn him before he even sat down in the chair. I think he'd walk past the barber shop, look at the sign, think about getting the haircut, and then his spider sense would go off like a fire alarm in his head and go, oh shit, I'm going to get a terrible haircut.
Unless his spider sense doesn't tell him exactly what. He thinks it's a terrible haircut. Inside is like Norman Osborn with a pair of shears, just ready to take his head off.
It's so good. But it must just protect him from everything. And yet, he's still the superhero who struggles the most. It's like, how does he have a bad job? If like, I think as well, his spider sense also lets him take good photos. So that's how he gets all the good photos. Obviously, his instincts let him know when he looks.
Just explain everything
It's
with it.
so good. And yet he still sucks ass at everything else. How can someone be that bad at life? To get else of his excuses, he's always running late to Spider-Man. Like his spider sense must like guide the excuse to be the one that the person's most likely to believe, which is why everyone forgives him for being late all the time. So let's move straight on to powers and talk to people about the spider physiology here, Luke. So what do you know about Spider-Man's powers?
I mean, you know, I know that he has this famous spidey sense.
Yeah, it's the proportionate
He
strength
does
of a
have
human-sized
his
spider.
super abs and super strength.
Super abs.
Super abs.
So,
Confirmed.
Yeah, aka SABs. So we're going to start with spider physiology. Spider-Man possesses the proportionate powers of a spider granted to him from an irradiated common house spider. So I didn't know that. It's in the film, doesn't it like glow? Like they always try and
Yeah,
make
so it's still irradiated.
but they make the spider like...
Oh yeah, it's always like, oh, we've developed this spider in a lab. And
Yeah, like here's a
that's
turbo
special,
spider.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was an irradiated common house spider.
Neither did I.
The radioactive complex mutagenic enzymes in the spider's blood that were transferred at the time of the bite triggered numerous body-wide mutagenic changes in Parker, granting him superhuman strength, speed, toughened flesh, and numerous arachnid-like abilities. That mutation granted him an enhanced chromosome pattern. Ezekiel Sims revealed to Peter that his powers were not of scientific origin. Okay. But were silently become a totemic avatar of the web of life and destiny. What? What? This is like why is Hulk big? What? While Peter initially struggled to accept this, yeah, no shit, he later came to the conclusion that both were plausible and has had his powers mystically augmented on a number of occasions.
I just thought it was like, oh, radioactive spider.
Yeah.
Means Spider-Man.
One of the things that I like about Spider-Man is that he's technically not a mutant, but whenever like the X-Men have to fight the Sentinels attack him and he gets really annoyed about it. She's like, I'm not a mutant, stop attacking.
He's not got the gene inside him to be a mutant.
He's like, you know, he's mutated, but he's not a mutant with the X-Men. I just think that's really funny, that every time it happens, he like calls up Wolverine and says, please stop this. Please help, there are so many Sentinels trying to open my asshole right now. So his powers include, what do you think the most famous one is here?
Spider-Man.
No, it's wall crawling, so...
Oh, well, yeah, too.
So Spider-Man's exposed to the mutated spider venom induced a mutagenic, cerebellum-wide alteration of his engrams. Are we reading the Destiny Wiki right now?
Apparently.
Resulting in the ability to mentally control the flux of interatomic attraction, electrostatic force, between molecular boundary layers. So this is why in the Raimi-verse they just said he's got little tiny hairs.
Yeah.
Because that shit is hard to explain.
Like, what? I'm sorry.
This ability to affect the attraction between surfaces is so far limited to Spider-Man's body and is especially concentrated in his hands and feet and another object, with an upper limit of several tons per finger. Now we're going to move on to superhuman strength. How tough do you think Spider-Man is? Because it's never actually shown like in a lot of the films, except for like, you know, the famous train scene.
Yeah, it's insinuated at times, but
But he's
it's never
like-
explicitly stated.
He's impossibly strong because he's normally fighting like dudes. Spider-Man's physical strength is sufficient enough to enable him to lift and throw objects as heavy as a big rig semi-truck with ease. And Lander Jet, he estimated, had a landing weight of between 175,000 and 215,000 pounds. He must also pull his punches and kicks unless fighting someone of similar or greater physical durability, otherwise his blows would prove fatal to normal human beings. He has demonstrated that he is strong enough to knock out people with normal durability with as little as a light tap to the head. As such, he rarely lets himself use all of his strength.
He just pats people on the head and they pass out.
Superhuman speed. So do you want to have like a guess at how fast Spider-Man is?
He's faster than when Batman can catch up to cars.
I forgot about that one. Spider-Man is capable of running and moving at speeds that are far beyond the natural physical limits of the finest human athlete. He is fast enough to be able to catch up to an accelerating car.
Oh.
How did you get that exactly right? Although he normally prefers to travel by webs. He can move faster than the eye can follow, and has even moved so fast he appeared as a blur. In close combat, he was even able to dodge an all-out assault from Blur for an extended period of time. So he's like a villain with like super speed, I guess. Superhuman durability. So Spider-Man's body is physically tougher and more resistant to some types of injury than the body of a normal human. You know, as evidenced by the fact he gets like knocked through a brick wall every other day. In the past, he has survived multiple blows from the likes of the Hulk, in addition to surviving a point-blank missile explosion. So I'm thinking that was when a criminal went, I'm done. It's time to swap this. It's time to swap this spider, and shot him with a rocket launcher. And I'm just thinking, what went through that criminal's mind when the explosion rocked Spider-Man and he walked out of it like nothing? So imagine how scared you'd be. You shoot a rocket launcher at Spider-Man and he walks out of it going, now I've got to fix my suit.
Well, really?
Really, dude, really? And then he has like a healing factor, an enhanced immune system, none of which are interesting. But let's get to the better stuff because we've got superhuman equilibrium. And this is a power you probably don't know Spider-Man has, do you?
No, I don't recognise the name of it.
Okay, so Spider-Man possesses the ability to achieve a state of perfect equilibrium in any position imaginable. He seems able to adjust his position by instinct, which enables him to balance himself on virtually any object, no matter how small or narrow. So that's why he can stand up straight on a wall and talk normally.
Yeah.
And that's how he can, like, you know, walk on like any surface without ever getting like disorientated or confused. Superhuman reflexes. All right, so his reflexes. We're not talking about spiders. We're talking about just sheer reflexes, so which allows him to dodge almost any attack, including gunfire, given sufficient distance. And that's without his spider. It says here that's without his spider.
That's just his reflex.
Because the next section, which is very fucking long, is just simply titled Spider Sense. So let's end on this because this, to me, is what makes Spider-Man so fucking broken. Spider-Man possesses a precognitive danger or spider sense, or, you know, the Peter Tingle, which warns of a potential or immediate danger by the manifestation of a tingling sensation in the back of his skull, and links with his superhuman kinesthetics enabling him to evade almost any injury, unless he cognitively overrides his automatic reflexes. The precise nature of this sense is, do you want to guess what the next word here is?
Oh no!
Exactly, yes, we don't know where it comes from, though the Master Weaver states it's enabled by his connection to the web of life and destiny, which is the most bullshit thing I've ever heard, and it makes Spider-Man objectively less cool. It appears to be a simultaneous clairvoyant response to a wide variety of phenomenon, everything from falling safe to speeding bullets and even thrown punches, which have given several hundredths of a second warning, which is sufficient time for his reflexes to allow him to avoid any injury. The sense also creates a general response to the order of several minutes, so he can just like, in a couple of minutes time, someone's going to punch me in the back of the head. He cannot discern the nature of a threat by the sensation, however. He can, though, discern the severity of the danger by the strength of his reaction to it. Spider-Man's spider sense is directional and could guide him to or away from hidden weapons and enemies. So which means that, like, if he walks into a building, it's like, okay, there's an enemy with a gun in that room. My spider sense tells him, there's a guy in that room with a gun.
That's so funny.
Think about how OP he has, basically, the Soliton radar.
Yeah.
He has, like, the Metal Gear Solid OP as shit radar.
He's just entered cheat mode. That's all it is.
He is, like, spider sense breaks everything, which is why in, like, most comics they get rid of it. Using his spider sense to time his enhanced reflexes, Spider can casually dodge attacks up to and including automatic weapons fire. His spider sense is sufficiently well linked to his reflexes to the point the threat can even trigger when Spider-Man is asleep or stunned.
Can you imagine just being asleep and going, shit, someone's gonna shoot me?
No, he just reacts on instinct.
Oh, really?
Yes, which means Spider-Man cannot be pranked. So imagine Peter Parker, he's at a house party, he's a bit pissed, he's passed out on the sofa, and you go up and try and, like, you know, like, like, I don't know, put his fingers in like, a glass of water or something, and just immediately he grabs your hand and breaks your wrist. Even when he does not have the use of his eyes, Spider-Man can still use his spider sense in a similar fashion to Daredevil's radar sense. So even if you pulled his eyes out, put him to sleep, and then tied him up, Spider-Man's still got the advantage in that situation. And people say Batman could beat him in a fist fight. Fuck off. As a result of the Venom symbiote bonding to Spider-Man, and the Venom and its offspring do not trigger his spider sense.
Because it's like essentially an old part of his body.
Yes, so that doesn't work, which is why my favourite thing is that Venom can just continually sneak on Spider-Man and he gets really annoyed about it. It's like Venom's always sneaking up behind him, just like hugging him. Is that, please stop?
I hate spiders with a passion.
Same.
And I love Spider-Man. Everyone's gonna love him.
Not to mention as well, he's so far removed from like, the concept of a spider. It's like Wolverine. He's not really a Wolverine we talked about in another video. Spider-Man, he has spider powers, but he's not like, a walking human spider, except in that one terrifying moment in the 90s cartoon where he turns into a man spider. You know what? People will be scared of that hero, but Spider-Man is awesome. Everyone loves Spider-Man. Spider sense now is pretty well understood, and that's because there's been like 3 Spider-Man movies that explain it.
Well, I mean, they haven't explained it because they haven't even called it Spider Sense. It's just the Peter Tingle.
Yeah, they call it the Peter Tingle in the MCU, but they do refer to it as Spider Sense in the original movie, although Peter Parker himself never says that. It's the lady who gives the description of the spider that bites him.
Some researchers believe it almost borders on precognition, an early awareness of danger, a spider sense.
The next scene as well after this also does a pretty good job of establishing it as like, he just sees the punch in slow motion, like, wait, what the fuck's going on?
And for anyone unfamiliar, as audiences were back then, with Spider Sense, it is effectively an I win button for Spider-Man in near enough every situation in which he finds himself, because it gives him a full 360 awareness of his environment, and it effectively allows him to perceive danger before it happens. As you mentioned, that scene immediately following the lunch tray scene is really good at demonstrating how powerful Spider Sense is, because along with being a cool shot, one of the details that I noticed on a second rewatch is, do you know when they have the spitball and they zoom in on that and show that in slow motion?
Yeah.
Like, when I was younger, I thought, oh, that's just a cool slow mo shot. It's like, no, it's because the Spider Sense is so strong, it perceives that as a potential threat. And when the camera zooms in on it, that's Peter Parker's Spider Sense warning him about that as well. Because I think my favourite moment in that fight scene is when Spider-Man just does like the full Hermes Conrad like limbo champion move, and like Flash is like, wait, what? Yeah, and like that's a move that comes back in Spider-Man 2, like when Spider-Man's on the train fighting Doc Ock, and he goes under the tunnel and he just does it again. And I think we have to mention the MCU Spider Sense moment, just because that demonstrates how broken OP it is. Where he's been fired at from every conceivable direction by machine guns with wings.
Yeah.
And he's blind because he willingly shuts his own eyes.
Come on, Peter Tingle.
So far away, Lucas, as you often do, would you like to just let the lovely audience at home know what the specific topic of today's Wiki Weekends is?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
We'll skip straight past the origins. Like, if you give a shit, go read the comics. We're going to get to the fun stuff right now, which is powers and abilities, because I was always under the assumption that Miles Morales is just Spider-Man by another name, but apparently he has unique abilities that I'm not aware of, so I'm looking forward to seeing what those are. So, powers. Spider physiology. Miles gained the proportionate abilities of a spider after being bitten by a spider, which had been genetically modified with the Oz formula. But I just like, you gain the powers of a spider after being bitten by a spider. Leave it at that. We know Spider-Man's origins. You don't have to keep covering it. So, superhuman strength. Miles possesses superhuman strength, making him capable of lifting at least 10 tons. His physical strength also extends into his legs, enabling him to jump to the height of several stories in a single bound. Like Spider-Man, he has to pull his punches and kicks, otherwise his blows would prove fatal to a normal human being. And that's the thing of, every game featuring Spider-Man, you should not have to do combos on enemies. I know that they want to put them in because it's fun, but one punch should realistically be all it takes. Like when you're fighting someone like, say, Dr. Octopus, and you are landing a unguarded clean blow to his chin, and he like shakes that shit off. That should not be happening, especially when that blow is being delivered by an angry Spider-Man wearing full armor.
Yeah.
Just saying, makers of that Spider-Man game. Great like final fight, but I do not believe that Dr. Octavius, like a 50-year-old out of shape man with a degenerative disease, could survive even one of Spider-Man's punches and keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway, it goes here. Like Peter Parker in times of great duress, Miles sometimes displays far greater feats of strength. During the events of Secret Empire, after watching Black Widow's murder, spoilers I suppose, Miles shattered Captain America's shield in a single punch.
What?
And it says here that, because I'm guessing it was like, no, isn't Captain America's shield unbreakable? It is in the 616 universe, but this is a alternate universe, and Captain America's shield is not indestructible, though it does note here it is still very durable, making it a very impressive feat of strength. Because in the 616 universe, the Hulk dented Captain America's shield, not broke it in a single punch. Oh, superhuman speed. Miles possesses the proportionate speed of a spider, therefore he can run and move at speeds beyond the physical limits of the finest human athlete. And I've always loved that, where they don't need to explain it.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't need to explain it. It's like he's got the proportionate powers of a spider, and you see how small a spider is and how quick it runs across your bedroom floor at night, or behind you as you're watching this video, for everyone who's scared of spiders. You think, now imagine if that spider was like human size, and think about how fast it'd go.
God, it's that moment when you like take your eyes off the spider, it's just gone.
It is, yeah. It's just disappeared. Spider sense. When danger is present, Miles feels a buzzing sensation in his head as a sort of early warning system, allowing him to react accordingly. His spider sense offers him near complete awareness of his surroundings, and in conjunction with his reflexes, allows him to instinctively dodge or counter, and I quote again, nearly all attacks. His spider sense seems to be greatly enhanced compared to that of Peter Parker. And we've already talked about how broken Peter Parker's is, and Miles Morales' is better.
Holy shit.
So he has better spider sense than the original Spider-Man. So one example occurs the night that Peter is killed. Miles dreamed that he himself was being attacked by Electro, and at the same time the real Electro was planning to hunt and murder Peter Parker many miles away. So he sensed that just danger in an abstract sense was going to befall a Spider-Man. Not even him. His spider sense impacts other Spider-Men.
Oh my god, that's insane.
Yeah, he was also able to sense that reality was not quite right when he was with Tony Stark. This suggests that Miles' ability may be borderline precognitive, as opposed to only warning of immediate danger. So it even warned him that reality was askew. You know, that thing, like that stone in the gauntlet, that can do anything. It can alter the perceptions of any living being, except for Spider-Man. So we move on to, these are the abilities that I was not aware of. And we have bio-electrokinesis, which is fucking awesome. And is this his ability to just shock people?
Just give him a little tase.
Just give him a little taste, the Batman fist. Let's go. So we have here, Miles possesses control over the natural electricity of his body. He's capable of utilising it for offensive purposes. Oh my god, Lucas, do you want to know what his little lightning bolt fists are called?
Isn't it like Venom Blast?
It's called the Venom Blast.
Yeah.
Why is it not called the Spider Sting?
Oh, that would have been good. But that's a move that Spider-Man does, isn't it?
Yeah, in Ultimate Marvel. But would it make more sense to call it the Spider Sting?
It probably would, yeah.
Because it shocks people and paralyzes them, much like in the way. Anyway, let's find out. That's besides the point. So Miles can send a bioelectric shock to his enemies or destroy technology by releasing a small spark of electricity from his hands. After the initial spark, moments later the enemy will be electrocuted. It seems that there are varying degrees to this ability, as some opponents have simply been dazed, whereas others have been completely incapacitated. It also seems more effective on people with genetic alterations, such as the Green Goblin and Venom. Oh, Lucas, I'm sorry, but we're going on now. The Mega Venom Blast. His most recently discovered power. Miles displayed the ability to release powerful bursts of energy. After first using it, Miles is left exhausted. It is powerful enough to destroy much of a Hydra laboratory that Miles was being held in. This ability can be triggered by extreme stress or focus on Miles' part. So he can do the real final explosion.
Yeah, he can just blow up a lab. Fucking
yeah. It won't kill Kid Boo, but it'll kill pretty much everything else. And then the Venom Punch. Oh, yeah, so there we go. Miles can enhance the power of his punches by infusing his fists with bioelectricity. So he can just punch people with energy, man. He's got energy fists.
I like how it
Energy
says,
thread.
oh, you have to hold back your punches as Spider-Man, but fuck it, also tase people while you do it.
It's like that, the great thing in like Batman Arkham Knight, where it's, oh no, the Batmobile has tasers on the outside of it. It's still a 50-ton tank hitting people at half the speed of sound. The fact they're being tased and then flung into the upper atmosphere doesn't really help matters. So we have an energy thread generation. Miles can produce threads of bioelectricity from his hands. Oh no. So Lucas, he has organic web fluid, but it's electric web fluid. He said that said spinnerets carry the same tensile prehensility of his web fluid, meaning that he's just got webs that he can make on his own, but they're electric webs.
So I thought he had like web shooters like Spider-Man.
He does, yeah. It says here that he has web shooters as well.
Oh.
And he can use them in tandem.
Fucking hell.
So he can do both at once. So if he hasn't got web shooters, he can use these electric webs that have the same capabilities as his webs. It says he can swing around on them or yank and flail around his opponents. He can also send a debilitating electrical shock, which disrupts, and I quote, their nervous system. Spider camouflage. Miles, including his clothing, can blend into surroundings, allowing him to sneak up on his enemies or in some cases flee from them. This effect resembles that of invisibility. So that's not explained, but I want to know how it works on his clothes, because that's always the bullshit thing with a lot of hero powers.
It is,
Why
yeah.
does it work on their outfit? And the only one time it's ever been explained is with the Fantastic Four, where they talk about how the suits they wore into space were subjected to the same radiation bombardment as they were. And then Reed Richards just built them later. But why do his clothes turn invisible?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been watching The Boys recently, and it's just that moment when it's like, oh, there's this guy who's invisible, and it's like, oh, right, so he just stands everywhere naked. Then it's like, yeah.
The thing that I like about invisibility, though, is that technically you'd be blind if it worked. Because like you wouldn't be able to see, because the only way you see is because light's bouncing off your eyes and your brain processes that. But if you're invisible, the light's passing through you. Which means that invisibility would mean you're blind and naked and stumbling around, which doesn't sound that threatening, does it? Anyway, Lucas, are you ready? Immortality, in brackets, allegedly. Norman Osborn believed immortality to be a side effect of the Oz formula. Because Miles' body was altered by the Oz formula, he could also have such a power in theory. So he might be Spider-Man forever.
Oh, so he might just be invisible, unstoppable, immortal Spider-Man.
Maybe, we don't know. So he might be like worthy of the Spider-Man mantle after all. Stop calling him fucking Spider-Lad. The final ability we have is hand-to-hand combat. Despite not having any training, Miles' spider sense and reflexes making him a capable melee fighter. He has studied Peter's moves in combat by watching old footage of his past battles. Okay, I see that. So he's learning by just watching Spider-Man clips on YouTube.
He's got Tony Masters over here.
He has. He's also received combat training from the Ultimates and was taught drunken kung fu by his uncle Aaron while watching Jackie Chan movies.
On the 25th of August, FactFin will be hosting a rock band karaoke event at the Meltdown Esports Bar in Sheffield. The event will be starting at 8 PM and entry is completely free. You can either play the guitar or you can sing, and we have over 600 songs for you to choose from. If you're interested in coming, mark the date down in your calendar and we hope to see you there.